Welcome to Facts TV News, where everything is true. Person of interest held in murder of Toby Diamond. A person of interest has been taken into custody in relation to the killing of reggae legend Donald Toby Diamond Shaw. This was disclosed by Deputy Commissioner of Police Fitz Bailey at a police press conference this afternoon. Bailey declined to share more details on the case. Shaw was among two people shot dead on McKinley Crescent in St. Andrews South Police Division last week Wednesday. 3 other people were shot in the drive-by attack. The musician, 67, who was of the legendary trio Mighty Diamonds, was among a group seated on the roadway when they came under attack about 9:45 p.m. They were rushed to hospital by residents, where Shaw and another man were pronounced dead, and 3 other people admitted with gunshot injuries. Jamaica's music industry has been left heartbroken and angered by Shaw's killing. Protests in Portmore over police shooting of taxi operator. Taxi operators are now protesting in the vicinity of the Portmore Mall in St. Catherine over the police shooting of one of their colleagues. The details of the incident were not immediately available. The shooting reportedly occurred about 10:20 a.m. The injured taximan remains in hospital. According to eyewitnesses, he was shot by a cop after allegedly committing a traffic violation. In the meantime, the police are advising motorists to use the Port Henderson Road or other alternative routes. The demonstration has resulted in traffic delays. Efforts are being made to clear the road. There is heavy police presence. Dutch prosecutors appeal Jacquier's acquittal and attempted murder charge. Dutch prosecutors had filed an appeal against the acquittal of Jamaican reggae singer Jacquier on the charge of attempted murder. Jacquier was on March 22nd convicted of the lesser offense of attempted manslaughter in relation to the stabbing of a promoter over unpaid money. He was sentenced to 6 years in prison in the Netherlands for attempted manslaughter charge. Jacquier, 43, was charged in October in relation to the stabbing incident. In court, the reggae artist had claimed self-defense, but the Court of Amsterdam rejected his claim. According to Frank, press officer for the Netherlands Public Prosecution Service, although the claim of self-defense was rejected, the court found Jacquier not guilty of attempted murder. Last October, Jacquier stabbed promoter Ricardo Papa Blake in Dam Square in the Netherlands. During a public hearing on March 8, the prosecution said Jacquier's action was premeditated and that he intended to cause wounding and harm to Blake. The stabbing followed an argument over money tallying €5,000 owed to the artist by the promoter for a concert at which he performed in Meckwig. Both sides were given 2 weeks wherewith which to bring an appeal if either party disagreed with the court's ruling. Following the court's decision, one of the lawyers for the reggae singer told reporters that the legal team would discuss the merit of filing an appeal. Elephant Man freed of immigration charges. Dancehall entertainer Elephant Man, who was accused of lying to immigration authorities, was this morning freed of breaches of the Immigration and Perjury Acts. The artist was accused of lying about an alleged trip to Belgium, which was one of the countries for which Jamaica had imposed a travel ban in 2020 as part of COVID-19 mitigation efforts. It was being alleged that the popular entertainer, who returned to the island from a tour in Europe, failed to properly declare his travel history to immigration personnel. This jockey Kevin Shields, who was drawn to charge in the matter, was also freed when both men appeared in the Kingston and St. Andrew Parish Court for the start of their trial. The entertainer, whose given name is O'Neil Bryan, and Shields were charged with making a false declaration and false volunteer declaration. The trial, which was set to begin this morning before Parish Judge Layton Morris, was aborted after the prosecution offered no evidence in the matter. The prosecution had alleged that on March 20, 2022, Bryan arrived at the Sangster International Airport in Montego Bay, St. James, and failed to declare on the Immigration and Customs form that he had visited Belgium. As a result, on March 23rd, summons were prepared for breaches of the Immigration Restriction of Commonwealth Citizens and Perjury Acts and served on Bryan. Similar summons were prepared and served on Shields, who had been traveling with Bryan. However, attorney-at-law Russell Stewart, who represented Shields, told reporters that the prosecution had nothing to prove that his client or Bryan had visited Belgium except they say so of an unknown passenger. Casey and Kennedy appeared for Bryan. April 21 mentioned date for former Haitian Senator linked to Moa's assassination. The illegal entry case against Joseph Joel John, the former Haitian Senator linked to the assassination of President Jovenel Moise, is to be mentioned again in the Kingston and St. Andrew Parish Court on April 21. The matter was scheduled to be mentioned today, but Joseph, who is in custody awaiting extradition, was not brought before the court. Hence, a new date was scheduled. Senior Parish Judge Lorian Cole Montague also instructed that a writ be issued to the facility where he is being held for him to be taken to court on the next date. Joseph's wife and their sons are also to report to court in April. The Haitians were apprehended on January 14 during a police operation in Warminster District in St. Elizabeth and charged with illegal entry. Joseph, in the meantime, has accepted an extradition request from the U.S. and is to be extradited shortly. Joseph, 59, is listed among 5 fugitives who are wanted in connection with the president's assassination. He is accused of renting 4 vehicles that were used by the Colombian assassins on the night of the deadly attack. Moise was killed at his private residence overlooking the capital on July 7, 2021. His wife, Martine Moise, was also shot in the incident but survived. The other key suspect in his murder plot, ex-Colombian military officer Mario Antonio Palacios, was deported from Jamaica on January 3rd in keeping with an order by the Supreme Court after his immigration breach conviction. Palacios was intercepted in Panama by U.S. law enforcement agents and taken to Florida, where he was charged with various crimes related to Moa's assassination. Men who allegedly shot woman during attempted robbery in St. Anne charged. Detectives in St. Anne have charged 2 formers who allegedly shot a woman during an attempted robbery in Mines District in the parish last month. Charged with wounding with intent, illegal possession of firearm and ammunition, assault with intent to rob, and conspiracy are 28-year-old Jason Ricketts of Giltown, Clarendon, and 31-year-old Claude Davis of Boroughbridge District in Cape Valley, St. Anne. The police report that about 11 p.m. on Saturday, March 19, the woman who was driving an Audi motor car was signaled to stop by the men who were traveling in a Honda step wagon. According to the police, she was ordered at gunpoint to exit the vehicle, but she refused. Long live the Privy Council. Queen's Counsel Valrenita Robertson, the jurist who represented former cop Lacine Edwards, who was in 2013 sentenced to life imprisonment for the murder of his girlfriend, Aldona Harris, before going loose on his appeal before the court here on Monday, heard the squashing of their conviction by the London-based Privy Council. Justice lives, justice delivered for an innocent man by the Privy Council. It's heartrending that the land of your birth did not. Long live the Privy Council, Nita Robertson posted on her Twitter page. I live for justice, which has no race or color, added Nita Robertson, who, along with Patrick Atkinson QC, had represented Edwards before the appeal court here. On Monday, the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council, in delivering the judgment, said a substantial miscarriage of justice had occurred and that the conviction of Edwards, a former constable, cannot stand. It further said it conceded with Edwards' right under Section 16 of the Constitution of Jamaica to a fair trial within a reasonable time had been breached by the 10-year delay between arrest and trial. According to the court, while it is not asked to decide whether compensation should be payable in this case for a breach for the right under Section 16 of the Constitution to a fair trial within a reasonable time, a more significant issue, though it is not one in which the jurisdiction of the board, is whether Edwards should receive compensation for the miscarriage of justice which occurred. We commend his case to the Jamaican authorities for their consideration, the Privy Council noted. Aldona died on September 5, 2003, from a single gunshot wound to the head. Despite a suicide note being found by her body, the case had centered on whether Edwards, who was arrested and charged with her murder, had fired the fatal shot or if it was self-inflicted. The prosecution's handwriting expert had testified during the trial that Edwards wrote the purported suicidal note. The defense's own handwriting expert was inconclusive in his analysis of the suicidal note and Edwards' handwriting. The prosecution had alleged that on the night of September 5, 2003, Edwards has visited Harris At her home in St. Andrew, Edwards is the father of 4 twin children who were born before her marriage to a man who believed to be living outside Jamaica. Despite her marriage, Edwards and Aldona continued to have an intimate relationship. That day, Edwards went to visit Aldona about 11 a.m. While they were alone together in Aldona's bedroom, her mother, with whom she shared the premises, was asleep in the living room of the house. She was, however, awoken by a loud noise. Edwards then came to her asking where her daughter was. She answered saying that he was the one who was with her daughter. After his answer, he went back into the bedroom and returned to her. He was crying. She then followed Edwards to the bedroom door, which was closed. He opened the door, which opened outward into a passage, and she saw Aldona's body on the bedroom floor. She heard Edwards say that the girl had used his gun to kill herself. The mother then fainted. At the conclusion of the trial, Edwards was convicted of Aldona's murder and sentenced to life imprisonment with the possibility of parole only after serving a minimum of 35 years. In his appeal before the Privy Council, heard between February 15 and 16, 2022, Edwards' lawyer presented arguments that extensive delays in the trial and appellate process had breached his constitutional right to trial within a reasonable time. They also argued that there were serious deficiencies in the safety of Edwards' conviction and that a miscarriage of justice had occurred, as during the initial police investigation vital evidence, such as clothes worn by Edwards and the gun and holster, had not been sent to forensic testing, and that only evidence such as the clothes worn by the deceased had been destroyed by the police before trial. Edwards' lawyers also appealed to his fresh conviction admitted to the Privy Council, including reports from ballistics, gunshot residue, and blood splatter forensic experts. Considering the admission of the fresh forensics evidence, the Privy Council stated, "There is simply no satisfactory explanation of how the defendant could have managed to murder the deceased in the well-confined space of the bathroom, then move the body, open the door, and appear a very short while afterwards in the living room without any blood being seen on him or his clothes, and without any blood stain or bloody footprints being found anywhere outside the bathroom." There is a word of difference between a lawyer's assertion that the prosecution theory is implausible and expert evidence that shows that the suicidal hypothesis is far more likely than that of murder. Please remember to subscribe, like, share, and click the notification bell for daily updates.